right, we are live. Thank you everybody for joining me. My name is Alicia Dianne. Welcome to Alicia Dianne Art on Facebook and YouTube, and welcome to my Cartoon Arts Center people for meetup. So thank you so much for joining me. We're gonna get back to spread number. Let's see. I'm actually gonna check because I really would like to know what spread I'm on. So let's see. I scanned in. Boo, 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 boo. Alright, so we're working on spread 15 right now out of 48. I'm going to pick up exactly where I left off last week because honestly I didn't even get to work on it this week because it's been a psychotic week for me. Bad and good, good and bad. All of the above, for sure. But it was Oscars week, and I did go to the Oscars. This is my third year going to the Oscars as a seat filler. My husband works at the Academy, so we get to do that. But I will talk about that, a little bit of the highs and lows of the night. But mostly we're going to be talking about making comics, making graphic novels, and it should be a lot of fun. So go ahead and join me. We're going to switch cameras. I got to plug in my other camera, and hopefully this time it doesn't give me any issues, but let's see. I'm going to go over here. My battery is super low, but hopefully it continues to charge okay. Let's see what that does. Do you like my sweater? I love this sweater. It's so fun. I wish I had one for every Disney movie. I'm such a dork. And you have to, like, not mind me if I'm a little bit slow today. My jaw is still hurting a lot. It's been 2 weeks exactly since I had my wisdom teeth taken out, but I still am in pain. I'm still in pain. But let's see. Let me switch my camera. Why am I not? Oh, it's another thing. Okay. Alicia's iPhone camera. Right. Yay. And let's change. Alright. So I'm going to switch over to my iPhone so you can see what I'm actually doing here. Hopefully it's kind of clear, mostly clear. You can see we're taking up exactly where we left off last week. If you haven't seen last week, you can go ahead and look that up. It should be the most recent video on YouTube and on Facebook. But now that I have my backgrounds pretty much flatted in there, I'm gonna go ahead and start coloring in my characters. Gonna mix up the paint just a little bit since it has not been touched all week. Gosh, I'm trying to catch up, you know, because I did get like super behind since I started teaching again, and I've been trying to catch myself back up. I let go of one of those classes so that I would have more time to actually work on both this and my and my freelance project, which is a children's book. So it took me a while. It's taken me actually a minute to get used to the flow, and that's why I honestly offered it at such a low rate. I would definitely, honestly, if you're doing something and you're new at it, or you're changing, you know, your focus somehow, and you're doing freelance, I think it's not a bad idea to offer your stuff at a lower rate, because at least you're still getting the training, and you need the training, and you want to have the training so that you can feel really good about what you're doing. And it's hard to feel really good about what you're doing if you're not fully confident in it yet. And that's kind of how I was feeling with the children's book stuff. Like, I know that I'm still new at it. Even though I've done a few before, my style that I'm choosing to work with is entirely different than anything I've done before. It was a very different, it was an old school style of digital painting.
that's not even really done anymore, not by professionals anyway. And I wanted it to look like good. And I felt comfortable with watercolors, but for the children's books, I wanted to do a different look. And a couple of times I second guessed myself because I'm like, maybe I should just do the watercolors because I'm comfortable with them. But then I'm like, no, I really want to learn how to do this. And I'm actually starting another YouTube series for this purpose because I really want to get good at painting digitally and in the way that I want to paint digitally. So I'm starting a new series. It's actually a series that I've already done a few seasons of, and that is Studying the Masters. But it's going to be Studying the Masters, the children's book edition. So I'm going to be going over a couple of different artists that whose work I really enjoy, and I'll be doing master studies of those. So if you want to join me, that's going to be Fridays from 10 to 12. So 2 hours. I have yet to fully finish a fully rendered digital painting in 2 hours. At least I don't think so. The closest I think I've got to was the other Studying the Master series, which even some of them, even though I was doing 1 and 2 hour sessions, some of them took a few sessions to finish a full illustration. So we'll see. And I'm okay if I have to do one study over more than 1 week. I just want to learn how to do it to the best of my ability, and then I can move on. And what's nice about these is that you can learn with me, because every time I do one, I learn a little bit more about how the artist got it to be that way. How did they do that? And I was really hoping that they would teach me that in graduate school. I was really hoping that they would teach me the new techniques that I wanted to learn, but that wasn't the case. All of the artwork that I actually did was really my own self-guidance, and everything else was really reading assignments, critique, and writing assignments, and a couple of classes I took as just for non-credit. It was just to learn a few things, but they didn't have because I was at university, not instead of an art school, they didn't have the very specific type of classes that I wanted to take, the digital painting classes and production and props and making stuff for animation industry type work. But anyway, that's gone. I finished grad school 4 years ago now, and I've been working primarily with watercolors since then for my personal work. But this is the first freelance job that I've had in a while, and the last freelance job I did that also in watercolor. So I'm just trying to learn this medium that I haven't yet mastered, and it's humbling because I did a whole painting last week, and I had to just toss the whole thing because I didn't like it. It didn't come out how I wanted it to. And so I'm you know what, I'm just going to redo it. Even though I'm not being paid to redo it, it was a learning experience for me. So I just tossed it. I'm you know what, I'm going to redo this. And I'm really glad I did, because I did it over, and that was what I was mostly doing this week. That's why I also didn't get to work on one of the reasons why I hadn't picked up on my comic. But yeah, I did a redo. A free do. It's a redo for free. It's a free do. So I had to do a free do. And I'm actually really happy with the second way it came out. It's actually one of the more challenging pages in the book. It's really has the whole scene laid out. It's lots of foliage. My weakness in the past has been doing backgrounds because I didn't practice that a lot growing up. I just like to practice drawing characters. That's feels like my strength, and my comfort zone is drawing people and animals. So learning to really do backgrounds and to do them digitally, that's that's a new challenge for me. And so it does feel humbling. It's like, I'm like, dang, I should be pro at this. But at the same time, I'm not beating myself up about it. For me, it's just like, I know that I'll get it. I just have to be patient with myself until I get it. And every time I do it, I understand it a little more. And that's the thing. It's like a math problem. Doing a new type of art is like figuring out a math equation. And it's like once you understand it, you can repeat it over and over and over again. But the mind, I want to use a bad word, but I'm not going to. But the mind screw that it does to you in the meantime while you're trying to figure it out, it's so complicated. It's like I know that it makes me procrastinate too because I'm not comfortable doing it yet, and I want to like just do it and like, you know, not even think about it, just like how I would do like the watercolor. But even thinking, when I think back, when I started watercolor, it was very frustrating for me because I did not understand how it worked. It was a different math. It was another math problem, and I didn't know how to solve it when I started. Hold on, let me get coffee. But once I figured it out, it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. And now it's no big deal. Now it's like, all right, whatever. I mean, I'll definitely get rusty if I don't do it for a while. So that's one thing that I have to keep in my mind. And I keep it in my mind like, okay, like I better make sure that I practice, because once I get non-used to it, it's like, I mean, it's kind of like riding a bike. You mostly learn it, but if you haven't rode a bike in years, you're gonna be wobbly. You might run into a tree or something. I know that I was certainly wobbly when I picked up a bike after not riding one for 10 years. You know, I was already a late bloomer. I didn't learn how to ride a bike till I was like 12 years old in the first place. But, you know, once I did, you know, and you learn that equation and you start to get that confidence, or like you start to know what to expect, so nothing feels like a surprise, then it feels comfortable, you know. But until then, it's a little bit awkward. And art is the same way. It can be totally awkward. All right, I'm going to be picking up. I gotta use my referral bag to see like what some of the colors on these buildings are. I need to definitely call my dentist again because my mouth is still like hurting so much. And they were supposed to, I don't know if you guys have gotten your wisdom teeth filled, but I was told that they were gonna do like a bone graft, which is supposedly fills in the gaping hole in your mouth when they take out your wisdom teeth. But I'm looking in my mouth with a flashlight, and I still have this like massive hole where my teeth was. I know you guys probably don't want to hear about this, but oh well. But seriously, I'm like, what the heck? Why is there a freaking hole in my mouth? I thought they were gonna fill it up. But oh well, that's what's happening. That's what's happening over here. And that's kind of frustrating. But oh well. Man. Okay, let's keep moving. Going to color this one. I think I did one of my buildings the wrong color, because from what I can see looking back, this building over this guy's shoulder is a different color. Should be this reddish color. So I'll just redo that one. It shouldn't be so bad. Alright, so there's that. Maybe I should paint this one a second time. Actually, no, I think it's the orange one. Oh well. Oh well, it's okay. Let's see, what else do I need to do? Ba, 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 ba. This should be like a long building here. Looks like this is the wrong building. Okay. Yeah, there's definitely like some incongruency here. So this one should also be like a reddish color. And that one is like green. So what am I going to talk about today? Good question. A couple things. Ooh, I don't want to talk about one thing that came up, because I literally just finished talking to my therapist about it, and I'm like, alright, I'm good. I don't want to talk about that no more. And it's career related. And I think it's that imposter syndrome type of thing. Because, and I will get into the Oscars eventually at some point. I just don't really feel like talking about it right now. Because it's a pros and cons. It's not all good. It's like, it was triggering for me in different ways. And one of those ways is because, like, I have ambitions. I have big ambitions. Like, I want to be, like, nominated because my comic has become a feature film, and it's nominated for, like, Best Picture or Best Animated Picture or Set Design or, you know, oh god, if like my main character was like nominated for like Best Actress, you know, I'm thinking big like that. I want, you know, I'm not gonna be an actor in it. Maybe I'll be like a background character. So, you know, but you know, my goal, I'm not an actor. It was one of my dreams actually when I was a kid. I was like, when I was a kid, and I thought, like, if I could do anything, like anything, I would be an actress. But, it's just kind of like a side thing for me. Like, man, if I ever get the opportunity, I would definitely take it. But it's not my focus, you know? That's like, I know my role. Like, I know my talent is this, okay? So, but my big dream is like, okay, this gets picked up. I'm not selling my rights, so it'll have to get picked up, and I will have to, like, you know, really trust the director that they're gonna, like, it's somebody who I know would do a great job, and all of that stuff. So I'm thinking big like that. Like, one day this will be a film, a feature film. But, you know, that's my dream. But anyway, so being at a big event like the Oscars as a not incredibly respected role, as a seat filler. I said I wasn't going to talk about this now, but now I'm talking about it. That's just the way my brain works. It makes no sense at all. But, you know, if I want to be there, I want to be, like, invited. It's a crazy experience anyway. But it's kind of a weird experience to be there, but you're kind of like, you're, you know, invited, but not really. You're really a volunteer at the event. You know, some people are really nice to you, but some people talk to you like garbage and like yell at you. I think this is the first year I got yelled at. Like I said, it's my third time going, but I think this was the first year that I felt like really kind of talked down to, and that was a weird experience by other staffers. Like, I don't know who the person was, but a couple of people were rude to me. One of the guests was rude to me too. But anyway, it's a weird experience to be there and not really be there because you earned your way there. It's just kind of like you're just there. So that felt weird for me. So I was kind of debating whether or not I would go again. I don't know. It could be still a good opportunity. Like, we're not allowed to, like, quote unquote, allowed to talk to any of the guests. So that makes it awkward. Like, you feel like you want to say something, especially when you're seated next to like freaking top tier celebrities and you can't say anything. Or you feel like you can't say anything. It's freaking awkward. It's like, I want to, like, this person is in all these movies I love. I want to say something, but I can't. So that part feels weird. It feels super weird. It's like, and I was sitting right next to Weird Barbie, and I keep forgetting her real name, but I was sitting right next to her. And I didn't know she was the same age as me, as I looked her up. She's been on SNL. She was on SNL for a while. She has short blonde hair. Her name is McCullen. I think her last name is McCullen. But I don't remember her first name. But anyway, I'm sure she doesn't know mine either. But anyway, I was sitting right next to her, and I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. But I looked her up later, and I found out we're both born the same year. We're only like 3 months apart. She's like 3 months older than me. She's born in January and born in April. And I was like, holy crap, we're the same exact age. But she had her shoes off. She was sitting down and she had her shoes off, and I thought that was kind of funny. And she went to the bathroom or something, and then she left her purse there on the floor. And I was like, wow, she actually trusts that a sea filler is right next to her and won't steal her purse. But no, I didn't have any desire to steal her purse. I'm sure there was nothing really in there anyway. And I don't steal anyway. Oh God. So anyway, I don't want to go on about the Oscars too much, but I do want to kind of talk about, you see, why is it always takes me a little bit to get into what I really want to say. But let me turn this more straight. Okay, that's fine. Okay. And I think that's imposter syndrome. Do we all experience it? I think a good amount of us do. And it's a weird thing because I've always been, as far as I can remember, I've always been pretty confident in my art. Even a little bit cocky. Not arrogant, but a little bit like, yeah, I know. And I say that like admittably. Even like before I got to a place where I should have been saying I know, I was like, oh man, that was really good. Like whatever I did, I was like, oh, that was really good. And this when I look back at it later, and I'm like, ooh, that was not really good. But at the time, it felt good. I felt like I did well. I could always be aware if like there was something that I couldn't do or I couldn't do well. Like I know I always felt like I couldn't really do perspective well. I couldn't really do like automobiles, or like I was really couldn't do like any sort of architecture very well for a long time. I feel a lot more confident in it now, but there was many years where I did not feel that way. But I learned, and I got better, and I'm still learning. And like I said, there's still things that I still struggle with, like digital painting, and I'm trying to figure it out right now, and I'm getting better. But I always had a confidence about me, and I think I mostly had that up until I started applying for grad school. And I applied to all these schools, and I got rejected by all of them. I applied to like 5 or 6, at least, different schools for graduate school. Like I was trying to get into an MFA program, and I just got rejected by every single one. And that really shot me down, like bad. Because when I went to undergrad, I only applied to one school. I mean, I already had my associate's degree at that time, but when I was trying to get my bachelor's degree, I only applied to one school. And it was the school that I thought was the best art school. It was the best art school that I knew of, and it was the best art school that I knew of, even in my area. But I was like, I know, like, this is where I want to go. There wasn't any place else that I even wanted to go. I was like, this is where I want to go. That's it. And I only applied to the one place, and I got in. And I was so happy. And it didn't disappoint me because I'll even say to this day, like being at the School of Visual Arts was like among the greatest experiences in my whole life. I loved it there. It was awesome. Every part of it was awesome. The people I met, the work we learned, like the homework, everything. I just loved being there. It was the best. And like and I will say that happily. But applying, so I was like, all right, I only applied to one place and I got in. Like, that must mean I'm pretty good, right? And it was funny because, like, in the interview process, because we all had to interview, in the interview process, the lady was saying, like, oh, well, there are people that are more talented than you. And she told me that, and, like, she's like, but you have really good grades. And I honestly, I swear, I thought that she was like psyching me out. I thought that she was like trying to like play hard to get or something. And I was just like, I totally blew it off. I was like, whatever. I was like, okay, not other people are better. Okay, I didn't. It didn't shake me at all. I was like, yeah, all right. But I did try really hard. I made this whole portfolio with like acrylic paintings and everything, and I brought them on the subway. And, you know, it's like an hour subway ride, and I had my big portfolio with me. So, I mean, when she told me like, oh yeah, there's other people that's better, I didn't take it as anything. I wasn't shaken by it. But I was totally shaken when I got rejected for graduate school. And particularly, I really wanted to go to CalArts for grad school. And this was the second time around. This is like after I already got rejected by the 5 or 6 other graduate schools I applied to. And then I just waited like another 2 years before then I discovered CalArts and I applied there. And they rejected me. And they like said some not nice things about my stuff, and they're like told me that my figure drawings look too cartoony and like that's not what we do here, like something like that. They said, and I was just, it hurt getting rejected by them. It hurt a lot. And so I think from there my confidence was a little rattled. It was shaken, if nothing else. And I knew that, I felt it, like my confidence, like I thought I was really good at this. I thought this was my talent. I thought, you know, I thought. And I decided I wanted to move to LA anyway. I'm not going to give you guys everything that happened, but I just decided I would move here anyway, and I applied to a bunch of studios many times. I talked about that before. And I have never worked in the industry still. I was like at like a major studio. Couple times like people have wanted me to work for free and I turned it down, or yeah, I just, something didn't feel right. One person that I went to school with was like, hey, maybe you can try and work here. So they gave me like a animation test, which I didn't want to work as an animator. I wanted, I can do animation. I didn't want a job as an animator. I wanted to work as a character designer. But they tested me for animation and I failed the test, I guess. And they never, contacted me again. That was like probably the closest. That's the only time I ever had like a test. That was with 6-point harness. The medium-sized, I guess, studio, but they're pretty well known in the industry. Anyway, they turned me down, and let's see. And I think just that experience of rejection, it took me out for a while. Like, for a long time, it was really hard for me to talk about. It was hard for me to really talk about work in my career because I didn't feel confident, because I hadn't achieved that dream that I set out for. And like when I was first applying to all those graduate schools and stuff, I could see after why I was rejected. I didn't know how to properly write an artist bio. Um, I needed more guidance in what I was making and why I was making it, because I didn't have a real purpose behind my art at that time. And honestly, I was still like a little bit lost. I was going through different types of changes in my life, and like no matter what you're going through, I feel like it's gonna show through in your art. It's gonna show through in quality. I don't know if I really took myself as seriously as I needed to. And honestly, my lifestyle was very different too at that time. I used to drink way more than I should have. I drank like regularly, and I mean not regularly as normally, I mean like regularly as like on a daily basis. And that was a terrible choice for me. I mean, it was not ever gonna get me to where I wanted to be. I wish I would have realized that more immediately, but I was like that for a few years, for a good 4 years. That was just like a regular lifestyle for me. And then I decided to change it. Not on my own, but through a series of unfortunate events, through a series of like heartbreaking events, including this rejection from all these graduate schools, a lot of like terrible failures in my marriage, and just in my personal life, like how I was experiencing myself, if that makes sense. It was a failure. So I realized that I need to change what I can change, and it took a minute to do that. But now, only by the grace of God, seriously, I've been sober for 6 years. I have not had a drink since January 2018. And it took me 3 years to get that to that point, because it was a lot of like sober for a couple months and then mess up, and then sober for a couple months and then mess up, and then it was like that for 3 years before I was like, all right, I'm done. So I don't know what your thing is, but if it is something that's distracting you, like an alcohol or something like that, then that's one thing that I would highly advise that you get rid of that out of your life, because I feel like that in itself is like, and you're trying to get rid of the pain that you're experiencing from the rejection or from whatever your experience is. I feel like anybody who's doing that is trying to get rid of some kind of pain, right? There's some kind of pain that's there, but you have to, eventually you're gonna have to face it. But there's ways to do it that you don't have to break yourself to. Like if you find like the right outlets, if you find the right resources. For me, I went to a program called Celebrate Recovery, and that was hard as hell, but but the outcome was worth it. Hopefully it wouldn't be so hard for you if that's something that you're going through, but it can be powerful. Like change in the positive is powerful. So I will recommend finding that for yourself. Even though it's hard and challenging, you're not the only person that's going through it, and that's the whole point. Like, don't try to do it by yourself. That's like the worst thing. So what do you do then? Like, You try to fix your life, get it together, make better choices, but then you still fail. I feel like whenever we do fail at things, it's for a reason. Because I've seen a lot of different people that I know, people who I've witnessed find success for themselves, like get that industry job. And even though that's what I wanted, I feel like that's not what's in my cards for me right now. And it took me a while to realize that that's not a bad thing. It's just leading me somewhere else. And I started this the same year that I started my sobriety. Like the same year. It was in 2015 that I started, and I didn't know what the hell I was going to do with it. I just knew I just knew that there was like this story that was, I wanted to tell, and I didn't know how to write, and I didn't know how to make a comic. Definitely didn't know how to make. I knew how to make like a very simple comic, but I didn't know I was making a comic, and I think that's even more, because I knew how to make very simple type comics because I'd been making, little short funny strips since probably third grade, probably before that, probably like first grade. I started making little funnies, But I didn't know at all that I was going to be making a graphic novel series. But once I got the story, it just kind of kept on falling into place, and that's kind of what I want to get to, is like the things that you're supposed to be doing do just kind of fall into place. It's not that it's that simple. I mean, it's been 9 years now since I got the concept of this story, so it's been a long time, and I'm only working on the second book. But that's because I didn't know what I was doing. But that doesn't mean that things didn't come into place as they should have, because I believe that they did. And I think that's a pretty cool thing when you see how things start to make sense. When things aren't making sense and they're confusing and they're like forced, that's when I feel like it's not for you. Or at least it's not for you right now, or at least it's not for you in the way that you're seeing it. And I think that's what's happened with me, is I had to realize that certain things weren't for me as I was seeing it, including like going to CalArts. It's like that was not for me, because I honestly, the only reason why I really wanted to go there because I thought it would be like a guarantee into the industry. And now that I see I've been working, and I'm still, I didn't go there and I didn't go into the industry, but in a major studio in that capacity, I'm seeing that that is not for me right now, or not for me at all in that capacity. And for the first time, I am okay with that. And it took me a very long time to get to this point. And I'm still working through like moments of being triggered by things. And I definitely was triggered at the Oscars when I felt like, oh man. Because it used to be that my dream was like, I want to be there because I worked on a film that's being nominated. Like I worked as a character designer on like a Disney film. Like that was what I used to want to be there for. But now I want to be there for my own story, making it to film. And it's a totally different purpose. And to me, it's like, how much more rewarding would that be than working on something that is not your own idea, it's not your own story. Not to say that it wouldn't be rewarding, because I think it would be, but how much more rewarding when it's your own story, your own characters. Like, I'm trying to realize that that this is better. Actually, if I can actually get this thing rolling, it's a better. It's closer to what I really want, which is, to. And I think that's important too, is to know what it is that you really want. That's hard. Sometimes that's hard. That can be hard a lot of times, actually. It's like, what is it that I really want? And I think part of like my most inner being is like what I most wanted is just to be able to do what I love and succeed in it. And not, I think succeed is not the right word. I think it's more like to do what I love and to be able to fully, I think more like be able to like fully support myself. And not only that, but to know that I wasn't crazy for wanting to do this, to know that there was something there was something important that was there that needed to be said or told, and I followed through, and that was the right thing for me to do. It's like I want to say it's part of it is validation, but it's not just a validation. It's so much deeper than that. It's like I don't know. I don't think I have the right words to describe what I'm thinking right now. But it's just like, oh, I'm not crazy. There was something here, if that makes sense. Like, oh, I wasn't making all this up in my mind. Like, there's something there. And it's almost like, there's something unique and special about actually knowing that you're not the only person who thinks that some certain thing, and you're not the only person who is aware of something, because it feels like when you're the only person who knows something, you feel it's a very lonely place. You feel like everyone else is probably thinking you're crazy because nobody else can see what you see, and it's like, doesn't everybody see this thing? And everybody's like, no. And it feels really lonely. And one of the things that I noticed in myself this week was like, I just found out, or like got a diagnosis that I have what's called hyperthyroid, which I didn't even know what that was, but it's basically like a gland in your neck that's overproductive of like a particular hormone, and it makes you feel anxious, and it makes you feel worried, and it causes like different types of emotional things. And I was really disappointed to hear it, but at the same time I'm like, oh, that makes sense. like like all of those different types of feelings I was feeling before is not just in my mind. It's like actually a reason, or like a medical reason why that's happening, and I wasn't aware of it before. But it's kind of like, it's a funny thing when you're like, okay, I'm not making this up in my head, I'm really experiencing this, and this is what it is. It's a little bit relieving, because it's like, all right, now I know what it is. Hopefully I can get it solved. And I think someone famous or someone smart said, like, knowing is half the battle. And I think that's a true statement, because it's hard to fix something or repair something that you don't know what it is. It's like if you have a leak in your house and you don't know where it's coming from, and you can like complain about it, you can fuss about it, you can get frustrated about it as much as you want to, but it's not going to get fixed until you know where it's coming from. And once you know that, you can start to be on your way. And it's kind of a relief to have that feeling. Okay. Alrighty. Jabu is the name of this guy. I think he's fun. He's a very fun character. Alright, so let's see. What's the market? Alright, so this should be like brown. I'm not sure how long my actual streamings will be. I usually do for 1 hour, and I was thinking about doubling it, which I may or may not do. I want to do the work, but I don't know if I have it in me to just be live streaming for 2 hours. It might be a little bit overwhelming for me, honestly, especially with this hyperthyroid stuff. No, but seriously, it is what it is. I trust and have faith that I'll be alright. Sometimes it takes time to figure it out, but it's just like anything else. And it's just like this stuff, in the career. And like I was saying before, like, yeah, I felt like, oh damn, I put the wrong color. It's supposed to be this color over here, and this one is supposed to be a green. Alright, well, I'll just fix it. No problemo. I will just fix it. You can sometimes erase the watercolor if you catch it early on enough. But that's the trick, you gotta get it early. And then you gotta let it fully dry before you add a different color, or it'll mess up the paper. Alright, I think that's good. I'll just leave that, let it dry, and then I'll replace the color. I put the wrong color roof for whatever reason. Alrighty, let's keep moving. I didn't realize I still had all these background details I didn't add in yet. That's a little bit annoying. But what can you do? Alright. So, one thing that I realized too that is triggering to me is like when people ask me where I work. And I think that one is a little bit more painful than like, what do I do? Which I feel like I can kind of answer that fairly easily. But where do I work? It feels like, or it has felt like, oh, do you work at a studio? Like, and that feels a little bit triggering. It's like, ooh, this person trying to judge me. I don't know. Is this person like trying to measure me up or like see if I'm relevant or not? It is a little bit tricky, but it's something that I realize that that's in me, and I have to practice in just making sure that, I feel good in myself and I feel good about what I'm doing, which I do. But I sometimes struggle with, is this person also going to think that what I'm doing is important? It shouldn't matter. Like, it should just be, all right, well, this is what I do and that's it, and I'm happy with it. And that's all easy to say, but especially when you go through different type of rejection and something shakes your confidence, like what happened with me and like with the schools and with like the studio experience, it can feel intimidating. But it's just in the practice of repeatedly, you have to practice. And I'm telling you this because this is what I have to do. So I don't tell you this just like, oh yeah, maybe you should do this. I'm telling you, like, this is something that I realize I need to do. And this is something that I've gotten advice about before from people much smarter than me. So I'm passing it along in hopes that hopefully what I've learned that I'm learning to do, you can also learn to do as well. And it will be helpful for you also. So that's my hope. And that one thing is having that elevator pitch and being willing to practice it. You have to practice on your own. You have to practice in the mirror. I know, it's like, oh, I have to practice in the mirror. Yes, have to practice in the mirror. Sorry about my fan. And you have to practice ideally daily. And I hadn't been practicing my elevator pitch. I feel like I should try right now. I don't know if I'm going to remember it. But I've rewritten mine several times. And you can tell me what you think about it. So someone say, hey, how are you doing? What's your name? And I tell them my name. And then they ask me like, oh, what do you do? And my elevator pitch is, I'm a YA graphic novelist and children's book illustrator. And I specialize in BIPOC stories. And with a female lead character? That sounded like a question. Because I forget the last part. So I am a YA graphic novelist and a children's book illustrator. And I specialize in BIPOC stories with female leads. Alright, so that's supposed to be like my elevator pitch. And if they ask me where do I work, the answer is I'm self-employed, or I own my own. Should I say I own my own studio? No, I'm going to say I own my own company. Or I could say I'm an entrepreneur. I haven't figured out how to word that yet, because I was just thinking about that today. Like, because, I mean, I do work for myself. I pick up different, like, gigs and freelance jobs, but I work independently. Maybe I should just say it like that. I should just say I work independently. I own a business. I own my own business. And I work independently. That sounds not bad. I think I can work with that. What do you think? What should I say? I mean, the add-on too is just like, I host a meetup group and online workshops on YouTube and Facebook Live. So that would be like an extended version, like talking about the workshops and all that stuff. But it's that first introduction that's like the hardest part. It's like, what do you do? And one thing that I know is a challenge for artists, because I know it was a challenge for me too. Like, it felt instinctual to mention first the place that paid me instead of first what I take most seriously. So like if I had a day job, then I would mention the day job place right away when I didn't even plan on staying there, or it didn't really love my job or whatever. It was just something that I was just doing as an addition to. And anytime you're doing something as an addition to, it shouldn't be the first thing that you introduce yourself as. It should be like, people don't even honestly need to know that, because this is like, that's just another like gig for you, or like a temporary position for you. So I don't feel like you need to like tell people that at all. Even if they say, well, what do you do for money? Like, that happens sometimes when you tell people you're an artist. It's like some people will say rude stuff like that, which it is rude. Just say, I just told you what I do for money. Even if it's not bringing money yet, it's what you're doing for a living, then it's your job, right? Sometimes it can feel scary because not everybody respects art, but I think it's not really important to worry or concern yourself with what everybody thinks. It's you have to convince yourself, and it does take a little bit of convincing. You have to convince yourself that it does matter and it is important, and what you're doing is important, and it's your livelihood, it's your passion, sometimes it's everything for you. So we need to practice being able to speak about it in that way, because it's not easy to talk about. A lot of us, including myself, are introverts, and it's hard to or if it even feels icky sometimes to try and sell yourself, but it's a skill that we need to learn. Just like digital painting, just like anatomy, being able to talk about your work, talk about what you do, sell what you do in a sense, it's another skill that we have to learn. And I feel like, as I've mentioned this before, I do think that all artists are entrepreneurs. And when you're an entrepreneur, you have to be able to speak on what you do. It's an unfortunate side effect, but it's important. It's like a necessary evil. Or a necessary unwanted thing. It's just like one of those things that you have to do. What can you do? It just is what it is. It just is what it is. Alright, I'm gonna keep moving. I'm getting hungry, so I might grab a snack. I kind of ate something, but pero that was like every time I talk like that, I'm like explaining something, I feel like saying pero. I'm not Latina, but I like that word. Man. Because I ate like a Cliff Bar early this morning, and now I'm starting to get lunchy. So maybe I'll have some snack. I don't know. I can't start talking about it because then I'll make myself more hungry. So I'm just gonna shut up and get back to talking about what I need to be talking about right now, which is this comic. As you can see, as in the demo, I just use my primary colors, and I use a very basic palette to start with. I just don't like complication, I don't like making things more complicated for myself than it needs to be. And I add a variation with my lights and shadows, and that's really how I vary things up, and when I add patterns and all that sort of thing. But as far as all of my base colors, all of my flat color, I just use the right off the palette, and I don't even mix it. Why? Because it feels right for me, and I think that's kind of a theme for today. You have to really kind of find what feels right for you, and sometimes what you think it is, it's not. Like for me, I thought I wanted working in the studio to be my thing, but I realized that's not it. That's not what's for me, and I'm okay with that. And at first, when I tried to be okay with it, I wasn't. But now I think I believe I'm really okay with it. I just have to be careful when I get around my triggers. Things that make me feel less than, I have to be mindful of that and offer some self-compassion, because I think that's what we need. I was just listening to I was talking about this yesterday too. I was listening to this book, audiobook I have. It's called The Path Made Clear by Oprah, and she's talking to Brene Brown, and she's talking about how we teach our children to be compassionate by first modeling self-compassion. And I thought that was pretty profound. And very relevant because it's true. Like, we can't really be compassionate with other people if we're not compassionate with ourselves and understand the things that hurt us instead of trying to ignore the things that hurt us. We need to be aware so that we can be kind to ourselves. Because, I mean, it's not easy, regardless of what you do in art, it's not easy. It's not an easy path. Like, people will, it's one of the only, well, not, it's definitely not the only. It's like, you know, strippers exist. But it's one of the only things where, you know, you tell somebody right off the bat and they're like, they kind of like, you know, it's a thing. It's real. It's a real thing. People will sometimes judge you, but it's okay. That's the point. The point is just to like be okay with yourself and stand in your purpose, like knowing like this is what I do. I love what I do, and I'm happy with what I do. And sometimes you just have to like give your own self a pep talk. I think sometimes we're the only person who can. Like, who else is going to like pep us up if we're not willing to do it for ourselves? And we can have partners, which is great to have a partner that's loving and cares, but they're not going to be there with you every time. They have a job too. Hopefully they have a job too. So, you know, there's going to be moments where you're just by yourself and you need like encouragement, and you have to be able to give it to yourself, I feel. Because nobody else is going to do it for you. It's part of adulting too, is learning how to have your own back. Like, when you skin your knee, you have to be able to have yourself, because it's not going to be mommy there no more. I know it sucks. It's not easy, but we all have to learn these things one way or another. We just have to. We just have to do it. And I know it's not fun. I know it's not. We have to learn. One way or another, we have to learn. I'm just adding this door in there because the building should have a door. So I'm just adding it in there. People got to get in and out somehow. But like I mentioned before, like, buildings and stuff was hard for me to like get used to doing. And I'm still like I still feel like I'm getting it. Like, I understand it, but it's like, you know, it's not my greatest strength. And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with having things that I'm stronger at. And I think that's part of it too. It's like, we can learn. I think it's good that we do learn how to do different types of work. So we should never feel limited or like we can't do something if we want to do that thing. Like, there's some things that I have no desire to learn. Like, I don't have any desire to learn 3D. Like, I don't care. This is not for me, you know? And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with knowing very minimal about it. Even though I took class and I used to know how to do a few things, I never really felt passionate about it. So for me, like, I don't care to learn anything more about it. But if it's something that you do want to learn, like for me, I want to get better at backgrounds. I want to get better at digital painting. So I'm willing to do an okay job now to know that it will lead me to do a really good job down the line. I think that's important too. It's just being willing to do an okay job, even if you did have to procrastinate for a couple of days to get yourself to that point, because that's what I do. Like, I'm not just willing to do it right off the bat. No, I'm still human, and I still have my doubts and my reservations and my second guessing and like putting things off when I know I'm not that great at it. But I will get to it. I know I'll get to it. And then I'll put in the work. And even if I have to throw away a whole painting because I don't like it. And I've done that with like physical paintings before too, like throwing them out because it's like, all right, I made a few paintings that I liked before, and then this one didn't come out how I wanted it to, and I'm not gonna settle and say, yeah, sign it, you know. It didn't come out how I wanted to, and I don't want my name on it, and I'm just gonna let it go because I don't need it. I can let it go. Sometimes it takes some time to get to that place. It takes building your confidence enough to know like that you're gonna be okay, even though this art piece didn't come out how you wanted it to. I'm trying to get my son to that stage. He still is very like self-critical and hard on himself, and I guess too like I need to model more self-compassion because he's very like hard like to accept anything that he perceives as a failure, and I'm trying to like let him know that every time he just gives it a shot, then that's winning. Like that is winning, just being able to try, because in art, like all your equations, all your problems, everything you're trying to solve, all your research is putting that utensil to the paper every time. Like that is your work. That is your practice. That is your study. That is your everything. It's just being willing to put that brush, put that pencil, put the stylus, whatever you're using, put it to that white canvas and be willing to make something. Even if it fails, just be willing. And that's what I have to practice the same thing too, because sometimes I fail as well. And sometimes I fail on camera. It happens though. It does happen. You just have to keep trying. But don't let those like thoughts get in your head, the self-doubts, stop you. Even if it took you a while to get back up, like just be willing to get back up at all. And then be proud of yourself for doing that much, because some people will not even do that. Just say, all right, I quit. I'm going to go be an accountant for the rest of my life, or whatever. I almost quit. I almost quit art because I was so frustrated by not making any money. And I talked about it before too, like there was a time where I went for like 2 or 3 months without drawing at all. And that was after a really bad critique that I had. And I just wanted to give up. But I didn't. And I would love to take all the credit for it, but I can't, because I feel like there is someone else looking after me who knows that I have something. Oh, damn it. You see, I messed up on camera too. I feel there's someone else. There has to be. Or else I would not be here. I wouldn't be able to keep going. Alright, let's keep moving. Gonna get started on some of the other colors I need to block out, like this jobless clothes. I'm trying to remember what even color. I know they're blue, but the type of blue. Gotta try to remember that. I don't think this is the right. No, that's not it. There's a lot of self-talk. Try to make your self-talk as good as you can. I talk to myself all the time when I'm making stuff. Especially in the drawing phase, I'm trying to figure stuff out, like placement and all that. I believe this is the right color. Yeah, this is his color. Excuse me. It's a little coffee burp. The weather can't make up its mind out here. I don't know about for y'all, but it keeps like being sunny and then cloudy and then rainstorming and then hail and then sunny and then the cycle repeats. It's been like that for a couple weeks now. Just up and down, like my emotions. I wish I were lying, but I'm not. I am so up and down. But at least I know that probably my thyroid has something to do with it. Hopefully that can get healed up or taken care of soon. I was literally like, is the thyroid like in your thigh? I didn't say it out loud because I know it was like the dumbest thought in my life, but I definitely thought it. I was like, hold on now. Thyroid. Is that like thigh gap? Such a dumb thought. That's how I think. Doesn't make sense, but what do you want me to do? I cannot control these things. It's the artist's brain. It does not make you very good at certain things, including science. Oh well. Alright, so her shirt, this nice lady here, it's the same hue as the guy, but it's a much lighter. So to make it lighter, I just gotta water it down a bit. And it's only one layer for hers, and his will be 2. So it's like a light blue for her. Get off all that extra bits. I was going through a book yesterday, and I just want to give that artist some props because she is like amazing. I hope I can meet her one day. She does have a YouTube channel as well. Her name is Iraville. She does very different stuff than me, but she does work in watercolor. I think she's from like Scandinavia or somewhere. I don't know, a very European town. But her artwork is beautiful, and like she even mixes her own watercolors, which I thought I didn't know before I actually looked through her book. And what I really appreciated too was she pointed out like all of the mediums that she uses, and because at first I thought it was just watercolor, but she also uses color pencil. And I've been trying to figure out for the longest time, it's like I want to like diversify my watercolor more and like make it more refined, and I wasn't sure like how people did it. I just didn't know how it's done. But once I saw that she was also using the color pencil, it made a lot of sense to me. And I know this comment is probably very niche. People even give a damn, but but to me it was really like, oh wow, okay, I get it. Like it was a big deal for me because it made me think even maybe in the next Jaydi story I'll do, instead of using ink, I'll use colored pencil. And I'm thinking I really might do that because I really like the effect that it makes. And I'm going to keep the series in watercolor, I know that, but perhaps instead of using the ink, I might switch it up in the next series. We'll see. I'll do some experimenting first and just see how I like it. And I will keep you tuned. Alright, so let's see. We're starting to wind down a little bit. Getting into... let's see. There's a lot of green umbrellas, don't I? All these umbrellas are green. maybe I'll switch it up in Photoshop, which I can. That's a thing too, that is convenience. It's like Photoshop does exist, so if there's anything that you need to add or change, if you're doing something like in traditional, you can still do it. It's just like a post-production type of thing. So instead of doing it like in the moment, then you can just change stuff later, which is a nice ability that we have. I think they even had means of doing stuff like that in the old days before Photoshop, but how, I don't know. There's just so many tricks that they had developed. Alrighty, so there's that. It's a lot of green pops, seems like. Pops of green. Alright, let's see what color I want to add in. I think I will do Atsupi's base color, which is that watered down tan, so it comes off as like a off-white. But I think I want to do that. And then I'll add in some of the other colors that we need. Part of her did get covered by the street, but I'm not too worried about that because I think I'll just put like her shading in those spots. It's just first important to me that I get all of this base color in. Hopefully this talk was kind of helpful for you. I think I was pretty vulnerable with sharing about myself and my journey and the things that have been triggering for me. So I don't know if you're going through the same kind of thing at all, but it could be that you are, and if that's the case, then I just want to encourage you to just, stay positive. Try and find people who may be experiencing the same thing as you. That really makes it feel like you're not in this by yourself, and that makes a huge difference. It really does. Say something. Say something. I don't know why that Bob Marley song is in my head. Ever since the movie, I think there's been more. Ever since I watched that Bob Marley movie, there's been more Bob Marley songs in my head on a regular basis. I mean, I always liked his work, but, that's what I love about movies. It just makes things come out like so much. I don't know, it just helps people to really put things in the forefront of their mind. That's why I feel like stories are powerful, films are powerful, because they really take like two-dimensional concepts and just they make them 3D, and they make you really see them. That's why we need to tell our comics. Like, how many comics have been adapted into films? I mean, most of the time it is like most of the time it's superheroes, but it's not always, and it doesn't have to be, and things always can change. We can bring more like different types of stories, and even slice of life, because even slice of life can be so powerful, like really getting people to think. Like, those are my favorites to just read, on a regular basis. That's love, like reading a good slice of life comic. And I learn from them too. Like, I learn little tricks that they do, and how they do their speech bubbles in different ways, and it's just little jokes, like even with your characters' expressions. You can learn so much. I mean, you can learn from reading multiple types of comics, but I just think there's so much value in the variety of different types of comics that are out there. mix some of my colors because some of them have been just stagnant for a while. I don't want it to get like gross. I really want to do her hair, but I feel like I need to do her shirt first. Talking about Jaydi. So I think I'll do that. Let's see. Color's coming together. I think it's coming together. It looks like I didn't do his bottom legs here. So I think I'll need to add that. All right. Alrighty. And let me know too if there's anything that I haven't included either in this talk or on the channel that you would like to see more of, because I'm always open to like productive feedback. Like if you have something I feel like you genuinely want to help like make this channel like how you would like to see it, you feel like it could be like any more helpful, then I'm totally open to hearing from you, whether that's on Facebook or on Meetup or on YouTube. Anywhere you want to comment is fine. And you can always like reach out to me on Instagram or my website. And I have a Discord channel now, y'all. Y'all can join me if you're into the Cartoon Art Center. Make sure that you join the Discord. Okay. Let's see. Alrighty. Oh, let's see what time we got. Alright, well it's officially 1:30. And I think I might just end it right here. I'm gonna keep working, but I need to let some of these areas dry. Let me just color in this water container. One needs like that orange color. All right. Well, you know what? I think I'm gonna leave it be at this point, and I will keep working, but that is for me to do on my own. Let's see. And then I keep doing stuff because I want to get that tuft right. I love his costume. I got his costume color from this bird. I'll have to look it up, but I got a lot of the colors from birds in Kenya, and I love Jabu color now. All right. Let's switch over. Alrighty, that is our session for today. But I am actually going to be on a few more times starting this week. I'll do my book review. So if you're not part of the book club yet, go on ahead to my website and you'll see in the contact there's going to be my blog. That's going to be for the book club. So go ahead and join that. Check that out. Right now we're reading Perspective Made Easy. We're still in the beginning stages because I stretched it out a little bit. I was trying to give more people a chance to jump on. So go ahead and join me in that. And I will be doing a review tomorrow. So it'll be short. It will probably be like a 15-minute just of where we are so far. So I'll just talk about that a little bit. And but until I see you next time, I'm gonna just say, be grateful, live balance, and be yourself. And make sure this Friday to also tune in from 10 to 12 Pacific time. I will be starting the new season of studying the masters, and we'll be looking into children's book illustration. So go ahead and join me for that. And I look forward to seeing you very soon. Take care. Bye bye.